What if the moment you finally reached the top was the same moment your brain started falling apart? What if applause, success, and global recognition were suddenly drowned out by silence inside your own mind, because your thoughts could no longer keep up with your dreams? Most people never hear this part of Brendon Burchard's story. They see the best-selling books, the packed seminars, the high-performance energy. They see the man who motivates millions. But they don't see the night his mind slowed down so much that he could barely form a sentence. They don't see the fear he hid behind his smile. They don't know how close he came to losing everything at the peak of his career. In this video, you're going to discover what truly happened behind the scenes. Not the polished version, not the highlight reel, but the hidden chapter where success collided with trauma, pressure, and a brain injury no one knew about. You'll learn how one of the world's top motivational leaders found himself staring at a blank page, unable to think clearly right after signing the biggest book deal of his life. You'll hear how his memory glitched, how his focus disappeared, and how his emotions swung out of control, all while the world expected him to be strong, confident, and inspiring. You'll also uncover lesser-known moments that shaped Brendon long before this breaking point. The near-fatal accident years earlier that left deeper scars than he ever realized. The brain damage that didn't show its symptoms right away. The years of pushing, grinding, and giving everything to others until the pace he forced on himself finally caught up with him. But this is not just a story about falling apart. It's a story about rebuilding, about reclaiming mental clarity, about discovering that greatness isn't only about peak performance, it's about protecting the mind that creates it. By the end of this video, you'll understand the powerful steps Brendon took to heal, reset, and rise again. You'll learn how to spot burnout early, how to protect your mental energy, and how to rebuild your motivation when life hits harder than you expect. So stay with me until the end, because we're going deeper than the usual motivational message. We're exploring the mindset shifts Brendon was forced to make, the uncomfortable truths he had to face, and the recovery steps he followed that most people never hear about. By the time you finish watching, you'll understand why Brendon says his brain failure wasn't the end of his greatness. It was the beginning of a new kind of strength. Welcome to Habits of Greatness. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, because we bring you powerful stories, life-changing insights, and the real habits behind extraordinary people. Now let's begin. Before we talk about the moment everything almost fell apart, we need to understand who Brendon Burchard really is. Not the internet version, not the motivational quotes, not the highlight clips that people share online. Let's talk about the man behind all of that. The life he built, the pressure he carried, and the expectations that grew heavier with every success he achieved. Because Brendon's story doesn't start at the breaking point. It starts with ambition, impact, and a mission that pulled him into the spotlight long before his brain began to fail him. Brendon Burchard is known as one of the world's leading high-performance coaches. And that's not just a title people throw around. He earned it step by step, speech by speech, book by book. He built a career on helping others reach their potential, teaching people how to think clearly, live with purpose, and master their own minds. He didn't just study personal development, he lived it. He practiced it. He turned it into systems that millions of people follow today. But what most people don't realize is that Brendon didn't arrive at this level of success from a place of certainty. He came from a life-changing moment in his early 20s, a near-fatal car accident that forced him to ask himself the three questions that still drive everything he does. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Those three questions became the foundation of his message, his books, and his teaching. And that message resonated so deeply that it spread across the world. At a time when motivational content was exploding, Brendon didn't just follow the trend, he shaped it. He became one of the earliest people to bring personal development onto the internet in a big way. And as a result, his audience didn't just grow, it exploded into the millions. People connected with his honesty, his energy, and the way he explained success in simple steps that anyone could apply. He didn't try to be perfect. He tried to be real. As his influence grew, so did his accomplishments. He became a multiple-time best-selling author, writing books that topped charts and transformed lives. He created courses that reached people in nearly every country. He built events where thousands showed up just to hear him speak for hours. And this wasn't just hype or marketing. Brendon's work had real weight behind it. He partnered with researchers in neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral science to build frameworks that helped athletes, entrepreneurs, educators, and everyday people improve their lives. His high-performance habits research became one of the largest studies ever done on successful people, and the book that came from it became a global bestseller. By the time he reached the peak of his career, Brendon wasn't just a speaker, he was a phenomenon. His videos had hundreds of millions of views. His coaching programs were shaping leaders in multiple industries. His podcast reached the top charts. His social media following grew into the millions. Companies invited him to teach their executives. Celebrities and athletes sought his advice. Everywhere he went, people saw him as the guy with endless energy, unstoppable motivation, and total mastery over his mindset. But what the world didn't see was the cost of that reputation. They didn't see the pressure that comes with being the person everyone turns to for strength. They didn't see the exhaustion that comes from constantly serving others. They didn't see the private moments when Brendon pushed himself harder than he should have, trying to live up to a standard that no human can hold forever. Because when millions of people look to you for guidance, you don't feel like you're allowed to break. You don't feel like you're allowed to slow down. And you definitely don't feel like you're allowed to fail. This is the version of Brendon most people never get to see, the person behind the success, behind the stage lights, behind the best-selling books. The man who carried an enormous amount of responsibility, not just for his career, but for the lives he inspired every day. And understanding this part, his journey, is important because it explains why his breaking point was so shocking, so unexpected, and so deeply painful. It wasn't just a bad day or a burnout moment. It was a sudden collapse in the middle of a life built on clarity, purpose, and high performance. And that collapse didn't happen in the shadows. It happened right in the middle of his greatest success. At the peak of his career, Brendon Burchard was living the kind of success most people only dream about. His books were topping charts around the world. His seminars sold out within minutes, with thousands of people flying in just to hear him speak for a few hours. Every stage he stepped onto erupted with energy. Every video he posted brought in millions of views. His audience trusted him, admired him, and followed his teachings with an intensity normally reserved for celebrities and world leaders. Companies sought him out, of influential people begged for private sessions. Everywhere he went, someone wanted advice, guidance, or inspiration, and Brendon delivered every time. He had built a powerful brand from nothing, transforming personal development into something fresh, simple, and science-backed. His high-performance academy became one of the most respected coaching programs in the world. His presence was magnetic. His life looked unstoppable, and financially, he was soaring. Book deals worth millions, product launches that shattered records, partnerships that expanded his influence even further. If you looked at his life from the outside, it seemed like he had cracked some secret code to greatness. He looked like a man who had everything under control: mind, body, career, and destiny. But just as everything was going right, life delivered a blow he never saw coming. Years earlier, Brendon had been in a terrifying ATV crash while exploring the desert. It was sudden, violent, and far more damaging than he first understood. He walked away believing he was lucky. He didn't know that the crash had caused deeper internal injuries, ones that wouldn't fully reveal themselves until much later. Doctors treated the obvious wounds, but some damage stayed hidden, waiting in the shadows, and for a long time Brendon continued his life without realizing a storm was quietly forming inside his own head. Then at the height of his success, the symptoms started to appear. It began slowly, subtle, almost invisible. A moment of forgetfulness here, a lapse of focus there. But Brendon brushed it off, blaming exhaustion or long work hours. After all, he was known for relentless energy, known for pushing through discomfort, known for rising above stress. But this time, something felt different. Off, unusual, unfamiliar. The real turning point came when he sat down to work on a major book project. A book he had already been paid millions to deliver. A book the world expected to be another life-changing bestseller. He opened his laptop, prepared to write, and nothing happened. His brain felt slow, heavy, foggy. Words that once flowed effortlessly now refused to appear. Sentences came out, broken, confused, childish. The clarity he built his entire career on suddenly evaporated. He tried again the next day, and the next, and the next. But the problem got worse. His thoughts drifted. His focus cracked. His creativity sputtered out. He couldn't remember details he once knew instantly. He couldn't organize ideas the way he used to. He couldn't even speak his thoughts clearly at times. It wasn't writer's block. It wasn't normal fatigue. It was something deeper, something frightening. This was the beginning of his brain failing him. Brendon, the high-performance coach, the master of mental clarity, the man known for cognitive sharpness, was losing his ability to think. And it didn't stop at writing. Planning became difficult. Concentration felt impossible. His emotions became unpredictable. He would get frustrated at small things, then suddenly break down from the pressure he couldn't explain. Even simple tasks felt complicated. He forgot routines. He struggled to organize his day. He felt lost inside a mind that once felt limitless. The reality was harsh. His brain injury from the ATV crash had resurfaced with full force. And this time it was demanding attention. This collapse came at the worst possible moment. He was in the middle of delivering on the biggest book deal of his life, worth nearly $2 million. A deal that came with enormous expectations, tight deadlines, and a massive audience waiting for the finished work. He knew the stakes. If he failed to deliver, his reputation could crumble. His credibility could vanish. His entire career, the brand he built from scratch, could fall apart in front of millions. Fear crept in. A fear he had never felt before. Not fear of failure, but fear of losing himself. Fear of losing the one thing that made his work possible. His mind, the pressure was suffocating. Every day he battled the same terrifying question. What if my brain never comes back? He worried about disappointing his audience, damaging his career, and ruining the trust people placed in him. The thought of public humiliation weighed heavily on him. The fear of losing his life's work became a silent burden he carried alone. He tried pushing through, tried pretending everything was fine, tried using every mindset strategy he taught for years, but nothing worked. Because this was not a mindset issue. It wasn't stress. It wasn't burnout. It was something physical, something structural, something his body couldn't overcome with motivation or discipline, and the more he ignored it, the worse it became. Finally, he reached a point where he knew he needed real help. Not general advice, not simple rest. Real medical intervention. He turned to one of the world's leading brain experts, Dr. Daniel Amen, a specialist known for his groundbreaking work in brain scans and neurological treatment. When Brendon underwent the tests, the results were sobering. His brain showed clear signs of injury, inflammation, and impaired function. It wasn't just an emotional crash. It wasn't mental fatigue. It was genuine brain damage that had been quietly affecting him for years. Dr. Amen created a treatment plan tailored specifically for Brendon's condition. A combination of brain therapy, medical care, physical adjustments, structured recovery practices, and lifestyle changes he had never taken seriously before. For the first time, Brendon realized that he couldn't think his way out of this. He couldn't motivate his brain to heal. He had to slow down, follow instructions, rebuild from the ground up, and actually treat his brain like an injured part of his body. This changed everything for him. And it marked the beginning of a long, challenging journey toward true healing, one that would reshape not only his life, but his entire understanding of high performance and success. When Brendon finally understood the truth about his brain injury, the road ahead was not a quick fix or a simple break from work. It was an entirely new chapter. His recovery demanded patience, discipline, humility, and a level of consistency he had never practiced before. The process stretched across 18 long months, filled with structured routines and deep internal work. Every day became a choice: support healing or slide backward. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting. It was slow, steady, and painfully honest. He began rebuilding his body first, because his doctor made it clear a damaged brain cannot heal inside an unhealthy body. So Brendon committed to a full physical reset. He changed his nutrition, focusing on foods that protected and repaired brain tissue. He exercised with intention, not intensity, learning that movement stimulates cognitive recovery. He prioritized deep sleep, something he had taken for granted throughout his career. And he started lowering stress through breathing work, meditation, and mindful practices that allowed his nervous system to reset. At first, it felt unnatural. Brendon wasn't used to slowing down. He wasn't used to giving himself care. He had spent years pouring every ounce of energy outward. Now he had to turn that energy inward. As his body grew stronger, he supported his brain with targeted therapies recommended by his doctor, Supplements, treatment sessions, and mental exercises designed to rebuild damaged neural pathways. The work was repetitive and frustrating. Some days he felt progress, other days he felt stuck, but he kept showing up. He realized that brain performance is not simply a matter of willpower or mental toughness. It grows from total health. Your habits, your stress levels, your sleep, your diet, your boundaries, your ability to rest. He had talked about energy for years, but for the first time, he truly understood its depth. His recovery taught him that the brain is a living organ, not a motivational machine. It nourishment, safety, and consistency. During these 18 months, Brendon also faced emotional truths he had avoided for years. He recognized that the hustle he once celebrated had pushed him into dangerous territory. Being productive didn't make him immune to collapse. Achieving more didn't mean he was indestructible. For the first time, he confronted the reality that success does not protect anyone from failure. If anything, success creates new pressures that can break even the strongest people if they don't slow down to breathe, reflect, and reset. This realization reshaped his entire view of achievement. He learned that even high performers can hit a wall, especially when they ignore the warning signs. The world sees their strength, but not the stress. The achievements, but not the sacrifices. The progress, but not the pressure. And when they finally crash, people are often shocked because high achievers are expected to be unstoppable. Brendon understood now that health matters more than hustle. You can push through exhaustion for a while, but you can't outrun the limits of your own biology. So he began redefining success not by how much he achieved, but by how aligned he felt. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. As he healed, Brendon started piecing together the deeper psychological patterns behind his collapse. He realized he wasn't alone. Many achievers crash for the same reasons he did. They help too many people and leave nothing for themselves. They say yes to every opportunity, every request, every role because they want to serve. But in the process, they lose focus. Their minds scatter, their priorities blur, and their sense of self slowly thins out. Achievers pour so much into the world that they forget to pause and process their own emotions. They celebrate success with everyone else, but they rarely take time to understand how that success affects them internally. The emotional backlog builds quietly until something breaks. Brendon saw this cycle clearly in his own story. He had been so focused on impact that he ignored the internal tension building beneath the surface. He carried excitement, pressure, fear, responsibility, expectation, all at once, all the time. And because he never paused to process those emotions, they accumulated into mental strain that magnified his physical injury. His crash wasn't random. It was a warning sign, a message his mind and body had been sending for years. Moving forward, he refused to return to the old patterns. His recovery was not just physical, it became a complete reconstruction of his life. He rebuilt his mindset with intention. He rebuilt his discipline with balance. He rebuilt his clarity with patience. He created new boundaries around his time, his energy, and his commitments. He learned to say no. He learned to rest without guilt. He learned to center himself before serving others. And something incredible happened. As he healed, he became mentally stronger than he had been before the injury. Clarity returned to him with a deeper sense of purpose. Energy came back with more stability. Focus sharpened with more precision. For the first time, Brendon was performing not from pressure but from alignment. Not from hustle but from harmony. He discovered that rebuilding yourself doesn't weaken you. It refines you. It brings you back to your core. It strips away everything unnecessary so that what remains is authentic, powerful, and durable. Through this journey, Brendon found a powerful truth. Struggles aren't signs that you are finished. They can be turning points, moments that force you to examine your life, your habits, your beliefs, and your direction. Failure, he realized, doesn't have to be a dead end. It can be a reset. It can be the moment you stop living by old patterns and start creating a new chapter. The moment you finally understand what matters and what doesn't. The moment you reclaim control over your life, not by pushing harder, but by healing deeper. His story became proof that the hardest breaks often lead to the strongest rebuilds. The moments that feel like endings are sometimes the moments that save you. And through that understanding, Brendon emerged not just recovered, but transformed. Sometimes our greatest success hides the struggles we never talk about. Sometimes the mind that once felt limitless suddenly slows down, forcing us to face the truth we've been avoiding. And sometimes, our brain fails so we can finally learn what truly matters. Brendon's journey reminds us that even the strongest people break. Even the most disciplined minds need rest. And even the highest achievers must pause to heal. His story isn't just about falling, it's about rising with more clarity, more purpose, and a deeper understanding of what it means to live a healthy, meaningful life. If this story inspired you or gave you something to think about, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and insights. Your support helps us bring you more content that motivates, teaches, and uplifts.